Hey, my wonderful, beautiful people, a pleasant evening to you. Now, beautiful people, I saw something in the media this morning, I think it was, or yesterday. So it's what seemed to be a policewoman, a female officer, trying to pull a taxi operator out of his motor vehicle. I don't know what may have gone awry for this sort of combative encounter between the two. But men are physically stronger than women, generally speaking. So she was unable to pull him out. So I guess she had to get reinforcement. So a male police officer begun, he came on the scene, and I don't know, he was trying to pull a man, which ended up ripping his shirt, his white t-shirt, or off-white, whatever the color may be. That's unnecessary. And he began spraying him. He started to spray him with what I assumed it was pepper spray, which I think it was, because there was an onlooker who started to bend over, and it seemed as if his eyes were burning him because of the effects and the fumes from the pepper spray. That's how powerful it is. And he was eventually able to drag him out of the motor vehicle and push him aside, and I suppose, pin him down to handcuff him and then book him, and, I don't know, whatever it may have been. And, my natural instinct is to go into a feeling of sympathy and empathy too when I see what we would call police brutality. Any form of brutality. Once I see physical altercation and somebody's been mishandled and mistreated and abused, I naturally will feel a sense of empathy, and I want justice to be had. Generally, that's my MO, that's my modus of operandi, to be honest. But when I sat and I watched it and I pondered, I started to reminisce and think, not with good memory, on encounters that I would have had with taxi operators, and other women would relay their stories, women, especially, even men. And the woman would talk of the onslaught of the verbal abuse that they would get from these taxi operators. Gone are the days when men would almost fear how they speak to women. Now it is the order of the day to disrespect and to demolish women verbally. Sometimes they will even try to attack you physically. They will make that move because they know that they're physically stronger. Not understanding that God has a special place for us as women, because we're the vulnerable, we're part of the vulnerable group. We're not physically as strong as the men. So God has to put measures in place to protect us, safeguard us from the very species who was created to protect us as women. And they fail, just as so many of them fail to protect their children and to take care of their children. And I thought about an incident that I had yesterday in particular. That we have the champs going on, and I was driving along that Arthur Wynne Drive and going all the way up, and they're fixing the road. So, sometimes motor vehicles will stop, and each time there was a stop, I had to stop. The car behind me was a taxi operator, one in front was another one, and he was blowing and blowing until I eventually wound my window down and said, go ahead, because I know that he could not have passed, because you have the oncoming traffic. And I said, sir, don't you see that somebody's stopping in front of me? And he went on, and he was vitriolic. He told me I must what's it not go on, and he went, I just wound my window up. Needless to say, he still could not have passed, because at one point they started to put the cones in the road, so the oncoming traffic had to come on our side. So they had to pause sometimes to allow them to come, then pause to allow us to go. And we had that exchange, that interrelay, I'll call it. And I thought about other incidents, and I started to think about what women would say. Now, people will come and say, oh, women are generally disrespectful to men verbally. I won't say that women aren't, and they will be dealt with accordingly. But you see, as it relates to the taxi operators, they are not going to do that, because many of these taxi operators are erratic. Their emotional intelligence, it's little to none, it's almost non-existent. They're irrational. Women are not going to put themselves in vulnerable situations like that, to be abused, even physically, and their lives to be snuffed out on arguing with a taxi operator. So oftentimes in situations like that, the ladies will leave them be. They won't be lippy. They won't. And these men have no respect for women, that they have no qualms in coming out and hurling their evil ways and whatever is going on, whatever trauma they have, they decide that they're going to unleash. And Jamaicans have a way for say them have women's strength, because them know that women cannot manhandle them physically. It was indicative when the female police officer was unable to pull that taxi male officer out. She had to get a male reinforcement. So women are not going to argue with them. But there is a God who sits high and he looks low. And he reminds them, he says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Whatever seed, do not be deceived. God can never be mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he will reap. And normally you reap it in abundance. It's like gravity. When it goes up, except for the rocket launcher, it doesn't go up in full force, because that pressure and the vibrations, it's not as powerful as when it is coming down. And the karma, when it is returned, it's like gravity when it is coming down. So it's far more painful. So for every torn shirt, for every thump, kick up, box up, pepper spray, gun butt, whatever disrespect they give to you, even verbally, taxi operators, I want you to make a juxtaposition of what you say to women on the roads, because you can't get to have your way. So when you're facing the police brutality, we face taxi brutality. We women especially. I'm not saying males don't, because males have relayed. And God just decides I'm going to take out him leather belt and beat on go and beat on come. And if you can't outstubborn God, that's one of the things. So if you feel that you're going to be determined, you're going to understand the true meaning of what determination is. Many of you are disrespectful. Many of you are evil. Many of you are wicked and malevolent. And the judgment of God is upon many of you. I don't feel sorry for some of you. I really don't. I really and truly do not. Because many of you men are monsters. You don't belong on the planet. You serve no purpose to mankind. You're evil and you're wicked. You're whitewashed, or like whitewashed sepulchres, your graves, your tombs. You're a nuisance. You're like the cockroaches in the home that are so swift, but they become a nuisance, but it's hard to catch them and get rid of them. And they have to bring out the big guns of fumigation and fumigating the place. That's how horrible some of you are. Root taxes, I guess you're called. Some call it robot. So each time you get the bit beaten from the police officers or the bad treatment, I want you to stop and think how you're treating women, the vulnerable group. We're part of the vulnerable group because we can't fight you physically. You're stronger. And we're not going to argue with you because your reasoning ability, your mental ability is little to none. So we're not going to jeopardize our lives just to win an argument with you as a taxi operator. And if you continue, God will continue to keep his belt, and then it's going to move up and it's going to become more painful and more painful. Go back to the days when you respect women. Respect begets respect. If you sow respect, respect will come back to you. But once you sow disrespect, it certainly will come back to you in abundance, and you will not like it. You will not like it. You will not like it. Respect begets respect. So make your choice. Make your choice today. Start respecting women. and perhaps this police brutality will wane. Guys, you know what to do. Read TikTok and YouTube. Subscribe. Give me one of those lions.